I have to say, this is my first ever Mission Investors Exchange Conference. I'm so excited to be here. As a very interested observer, I've seen a couple things over the past couple of days. It's very clear to me that key decision makers in the impact investing space come here. And the fact that so many key decision makers that oversee a large amount of flexible institutional capital are all here sort of trading notes, sharing information, I think is really critical for the advancement of the field. Echoing Green was very excited and honored to share the stage with John Palfrey and Tanya Allen and Melody Hobson and have the opportunity to announce publicly for the very first time the work we are doing with something called the Signal Fund, which is our new financial product. It's a catalytic capital fund that is being directed at our BIPOC and proximate entrepreneurs as they seek to grow and scale their enterprises and move from our fellowship funding to more traditional institutional funding. And this notion of providing a blended capital opportunity for our fellows, many of whom have been stalled in this valley of death, this missing middle of funding, is a really important next step for the Echoing Green commitment to helping our fellows scale their impact globally. Echoing Green has had a really interesting experience and learning journey with impact investing work. Look, we're a fellowship program. We're a human capital, a talent-first organization. So we really have been, for the past 35 years, in the business of leadership development. Only about 10 or 15 years ago, when we began to notice that so many of our fellows were having difficulty raising capital and different types of capital, that it began to dawn on us that we had to move beyond our provision of just a fellowship stipend alone and help them navigate both the philanthropic capital market as well as institutional markets. And we started learning, interviewing folks about impact investing and how we could play. I would say, and I mentioned this in the plenary session, we have had some fits and starts doing that work. Initially, we worked with a syndicate of high net worth individuals, putting together an impact investing fund. And then we worked with one of the largest impact private markets fund in the world to try to bring more capital to our fellows. But we found out pretty quickly that the imperative of these investors to maximize returns, to invest in large ticket sizes, and a real focus on hockey stick growth precluded the ability of our fellows to really get access to that capital. And we found that, these funding partners, well-intentioned, were really just sort of creaming the top 2 or 3 deals from our pipeline, and we realized it wasn't supporting our whole network. So we very quickly started to nose around and work with leading impact investing professionals like Deborah Schwartz from the MacArthur Foundation, who introduced us to this concept of catalytic capital, which led to us architecting and thinking through our new Signal Fund. And we're really excited to roll out this investment vehicle because we think it could be something that would be of value to the entire social innovation field if we get it right. I have been sort of working in this field for almost 30 years now. So I will say I've seen it go from sort of a marginal body of work to being more mainstream. So now, today, many more young people, next-gen leaders are interested in social innovation, which I think is great. More funders understand what it is and interface more with social innovation organizations like Echoing Green. And I will say, I think it's done a good job of outgrowing some of its sort of elitist, very privileged roots when it started, and become much more available to proximate leaders, BIPOC leaders, Global South leaders who are doing incredibly innovative, important work, but not having access to sort of social innovation capital and network. So I'm proud of that. I think the impact investing interface between social innovation and impact investing, I think, is early stage, right? So again, these are communities that are just getting to know one another. But I think as social innovators, develop more robust, ambitious agendas, they recognize they've got to begin to access and tap much larger pools of capital, which has brought us into conversation with many more impact investors, like a lot of the MIE members. I think when we set out to create the Signal Fund, we had one strategic objective, which was to get more money into the coffers of these social enterprises that are impact first, and could you create a founder first fund that accelerated the breakthrough rate of some of these enterprises led by BIPOC leaders and proximate leaders. But in many ways, our long-term goal is to prove the thesis and accumulate the data that would allow us to build an investment product that would be taken up by many platforms, many different players. And if we do it right, actually make social innovation its own vertical within impact investing. We see climate verticals, we see sustainable ag verticals within impact investing. Why not one that is about talent first? But we've got a lot of work to do to prove our impact thesis before we get there, but we're hopeful that we'll get there. I think what we have often heard as an early stage funder of social innovators is that there is not enough deal flow. And I actually wanted to come here in part to push back on that idea that there's not enough deal flow. I think our opinion at Echoing Green is that there is plenty of incredible deal flow. There are BIPOC leaders, proximate leaders, women, intersectional leaders, global South leaders who are just brilliant and dazzling. It's just that the capital is so far away from their work and the problems they're tackling that the capital allocators can't see it. And that's where an Echoing Green and other intermediary organizations come in to try to connect those leaders and their ideas to the capital. And it's sort of, how do you make the rooftops and the grassroots come together?